myself with the ashes of you, and nobody's gonna give a damn. Son of a bitch, give me a drink. One more night, but it's can't fit me. Son of a bitch, if I can't get clean, I'm gonna drink my life away. For 17 years I've been going them back. 17 more will bury me. Can somebody please just tie me down? Oh, somebody give me a goddamn drink. Son of a bitch, give me a drink. One more night, this can't fit me. Son of a bitch, if I can't get clean, I'm gonna drink my life away. Yeah.
So I have a dry clamp on this, so it's all clamped up but no epoxy. This is the head plate jig that I had to make up. So these are just two padded Cauls, and then the first part that is kind of interesting is this comes down over here and is touching this longer break there, which is invisible at the moment. The other second part is this, which is super glued onto that part, and it just creates a flatter surface, or a surface that is parallel with a fingerboard, so I can clamp this easy and it doesn't slip. The third thing is this bit of wood here. Originally I had it up here, but when I put this clamp on, which goes to the butt, it was rocking the whole thing upwards because there was too much, it was too high basically. So I thought I can just transfer it from the top to the bottom, and now it's pretty much perfect. I couldn't have made it better because it's straight from there to the brake and all the way to the butt. And this is right in the middle of the tuner holes. And then I put a long straight edge on either side of the neck and put some little marks here. So these marks correspond with the side of the neck. And so I can put this right in the middle here. And that being straight on this way and straight across this way at the perfect angle just creates a beautiful clamping mechanism which isn't tilting the headstock up or down, which is fantastic. So it's the blue long clamp is pushing the whole thing in this way, and this is holding this down, squishing it under the, just on the first fret. And here there's kind of some gaps here which look ugly, and the rest is pretty good. I can feel a little bit of misalignment, but that's pretty good. So now I'm going to mix up some epoxy. I'll put some masking tape here and here, and some wax paper, have that ready, and wet both sides, headstock, brake, and the neck, just wet with epoxy either side, and then clamp it up. So the clamps are off. A good test for if you got the headstock and the neck glued back together is to check the nut. And there is no weird distance that shouldn't be there between the back of the fingerboard and this area where the nut used to be before the headstock was broken and where it is now. So that headstock I know is exactly where it should be, give or take like half a 64.
Son of a bitch, give me a drink. One more night, but it's can't fit me. Son of a bitch, if I can't get clean, I'm gonna drink my life away.
So I had to redesign my jig for routing this headstock for a couple of reasons. One, I had to come up with a new way to deal with the second neck. This is the original carriage that the router sat on, and it just has two tracks which rode firmly on the rails of this, the 9-inch curved rails. I detail this in the other video. To do one side of the truss rod, it went on like that, and then flipped it over and it's offset, and it did the other side of the truss rod. And that works perfect, and I'll definitely still keep this for more simple headstock brakes. But this brake, I wasn't confident about the glue up job, because even though it looks fine, but it just seemed a bit gappy, even though I got it in where it should be. So what I wanted to do, instead of just doing 1/4 inch spline, I wanted to route out more. So I came up with this method. This is the new and improved version. So instead of riding on curved rails, the entire thing is curved. All here, like there to there and there to there, is radius. The other thing, I had to remove some material from here just so it cleared the headstock. The really important thing, obviously, are these. What they do is I can keep the depth of the router bit and keep the path of the router bit the same, but I can change where this sits on the headstock. And so now I can route anywhere, which is really good. If this was just a single headstock, I would be putting this and this both on the outside of the rails, and these can remain on the outside or the inside for the, however left and right you want to route. So a big improvement. It's like twice as good now. It took me a couple of hours to make this, which is just the depth or the width of the router base, which is a Harbor Freight trim router, $25, all you need, 1/4 inch bit. And then these are just furniture bolts, and these are nice and chunky, so they can really tighten them down hard. Normally you can put these on the outside of the rail, so here and here, but I couldn't do that with this one because this just hit the other neck. So what I did, I put this on the inside of the rail and this one on the outside, and then I just made sure that I was pushing up against here and worked totally fine. I recut the depth after I made this on the first cut because I wanted to go as low as I could, and it's a perfect depth because it just misses the fingerboard, and there's no color of the fingerboard coming through. But then when I go up in between the nut and the first tuner hole, it just scrapes the head plate, and you can see the black of that. That's the perfect depth because it's literally as deep as it can go, but it's just got this nice flowing arc, and that's going to be 3/4 of an inch wide. And I'm going to do that on the other side as well, and it's going to be so strong. All right, so I'm going to route the far side, which is the treble side, but the other neck is getting in the way. So what to do? Well, I've just done that. So this is just going to ride and pinch one of the tracks. The width of the rails, tracks as I just call them, it's typically perfect, but the second neck is really giving me a headache. Normally this could ride on the outside and this could ride on the inside, but this distance, I needed like another 1/2 inch here. So I'm like, what should I do? Then I just realized I can just put it all on here. I'm actually not going to be able to clamp this. These are going to get in the way of each other, so I can't turn it. So what I'm just going to do is just get rid of this second one altogether and just ride it up against the one side. So I've got to make 3 cuts. So for the middle cut, I'll put the bracket on the inside of the rail, so if I slip, I'll slip towards the third cut, if that makes sense. And when I cut the third cut, I'll put the rail on the outside, so if I slip, towards the parts I've already cut. So if I do that, there's no way that I can screw it up. Famous last words. So the order of procedure now is to route the treble side, basically the same width as the bass side. Mark how deep the truss rod is, just so I know exactly how far I can extend this for the third cut. It just went in about 5 thou, so I wanted to pack that out, and instead of repositioning all this, I just put 2 bits of masking tape on here and here, and that just packed it out that far. Way easier than trying to fine tune this like just a couple of thou. It's kind of a silly way to do it. So just a few bits of masking tape to fine tune it is perfect. And this is so much easier to use. So this is a 10-inch contour gauge that I had to trim some little bits off the end so it would fit inside the slots. So I just get a perfect reading of the particular shape that I've drilled. Here's some mahogany, and I'm getting the length and the width roughly. That's a piece of plywood which I also used the contour gauge on to get a sanding Caul basically to even up the bottom of the slots. And it worked really well, as did this. This is articulating paper that dentists use, and it creates a ink smudge on where I need to remove material to get a absolutely 100% perfect fit for the splints, and it worked really well. You can see in the next shot that it's fitting really, really nicely, and it's actually kind of hard without articulating paper. The next shot is of me taking a really accurate reading of the center part, which I'll have to route away after I glue in the side splints. There was so much wood removed that I felt that if I removed the middle section, I'd compromise the integrity. So this is Gel Magic, a 2-part epoxy which I mixed up, and it's pretty good because you know when it's mixed up when it changes color to that. And you can see in this shot how perfectly I've routed the black parts of the headstock veneer, so I got that really close, and I'm replacing all that broken, previously repaired, compromised wood with this new and strong and stable Honduran mahogany, so this neck can have integrity again. Here we are the next day. I haven't taken this off yet, I just unclamped it. This epoxy here, it's only on the surface. Because it was face down, it collected. It didn't cover the truss rod or anything. What I'm going to do now is roughly take this down and then route the inside. If I did it all at the same time, I think the neck would be a bit too floppy and it might fall off, to be honest, because there just wouldn't be any wood holding it. But that central part, there's like a good ½ an inch there, and that's all you need to hold the neck on the way it is. Okay, so roughly shaped, very roughly shaped. I've got this center point with depth stops. The truss rod is 270 thou below that surface. That's 290, and then it's 330 here. How I've set this up is this will ride on the inside, and I've got that up against there, then that's a gap, then that up against there. So I've got the router bit set up. So first cut will be about here, the second cut will be here. So I'm cutting the epoxy line here, and I'll just get a nice clean mahogany patch in there. So projecting out the router bit as accurately as I could according to the measurements for the middle cut, I took some cuts and I just touched the bottom of the truss rod cover, but it was just the metal, so it was totally fine. I used some spruce to make a new Caul for this curve, which is way better than the Baltic birch that I used before. The plywood was way hard to shape, so I recommend using the spruce trick when sanding paper. And then I used the same articulating paper trick as well, glued it in with Gel Magic epoxy, and here I am just taking it all away. If you want to hear and see a more detailed description of what I'm doing, what I'm thinking in this particular part of the job, watch the other video, which is a more extended video and doesn't, fast forward and time lapse stuff like this. It's way more involved description. This is shaped, and what I'm doing now, just got some 320. Just give it a very light sand so the pores fill up with dust. And then got some paper towel and some thin CA. And this is going to be the pore filler, the first. And the little bits of paper go off pretty quick. But when you fill up the pores with dust, it fills up quicker, and what's in the pores is harder. So it's a win-win. And then after I've done this, I'll come back in with medium CA and just really fill it up, and then sand it all back, and then finishing. This has been grain filled with thin and thick CA glue, sanded to 400. When I close my eyes, I can't feel any lumps. I can't feel any transition from the wood to the finished old stuff. It feels perfect. It's as perfect as it can be without finish. So the only thing that I need to do is make it aesthetically or visually good. What I've done is just sanded it all back to 400, maroon bright, Scotch bright. That's Scottish Scotch bright. I have sanded back all the way to the neck where it meets the body, because I'm eventually going to spray the entire neck. I've tried to do spot spraying before, and the amount of tail chasing you've got to do with spot repair, it's it's easier just to cut back the entire neck, and then just the last few coats, you just give it a whole clear coat and it's done. And instead of just whitening this area, I can whiten the entire headstock except for the face, and then I'll bleed out the new white into the old white, so the transition will be way harder to spot. The thing I'm going to do now, just a bit of shellac. This is just a very light coat of shellac. Just do this on the new area. Now I'm going to seal up everything I don't want sprayed with brown paper, and the last thing I'll do before I spray is wipe down the neck with naphtha, just to clear off any residue bits and pieces. But there is another thing that I'm going to do. Before I spray the white on the back of the neck, I'm going to finish the face, which I sanded through a little bit here. I only need to blacken about an inch here, and because this is like 12 inches long, this headstock, I can fade out the black from here all the way up and not touch the Epiphone logo, then just spray some clear over that. Okay, so the headstock has been blackened, and I didn't show it, but I used some concentrated pigment for a lacquer finish, a color tone. StewMac don't actually make this anymore, but they do, or they don't sell it anymore, but they do sell these Mixol colors. So these ones, this is Schwartz or black. So I just mixed up a little bit of nitro and added the black pigment and did the headstock. So for the white, I poured about half an inch of this into a French jam jar, and then I blobbed a bit of the white concentrated pigment in, and it's white. It's whiter than Vermont. I wanted to get this strong because I don't want to build up a lot of pigment layer in this. I just want to do a couple of coats and then have it white. So I'll show you how strong this is. There's my finger, and when I grab a bit of the solution and put it there, you can see that you can't see my finger anymore, so that's a strong mixture. To minimize the telegraphing of the repair coming through once it's all buffed and glossy, what I'm going to do is spray the color on as opaquely and as quickly as I can, i.e. as thinly as I can. The more opaque it is, the thinner it can go on because it covers it quicker. Then I'll just put a few quick clear coats of nitro over that. I'll leave that for a day, and then I'll sand that back as flat as I can, but I'll have to be really careful because it's only a couple of coats of thin nitro. But then over that and over the whole neck, I'll put clear coats of polyurethane, and that is obviously far harder and is less prone to radically shrinking back over a month or two, like nitro. Nitro just continues to shrink back. I don't know exactly how different a white this is to this white. There is a bit of yellowing on here, so what I'm going to do is add this white to the repaired area, then blend it out, and then take the paper off this 6-string neck and then have a look at how different it is. And if it's too different or too weird looking, then I might add a slight yellowing aging effect to match this neck if the Vermont white is too white. When the urethane dries, which will only take a week, I don't want to buff this neck because the other neck is here. I have a trick up my sleeve for the very final coat, which isn't polyurethane. It's nitro again, but it's a particular product which is just going to make life really easy for me. After everything was sprayed and sanded flat, the product that I used was Mohawk Ultraflow Clear Lacquer, which is basically clear lacquer with retarder thinners added to it, and it's self-leveling, so you don't have to buff it. You need a little bit of luck, cross your fingers when you're spraying it, but I didn't need to buff this at all, which really came in handy with the double neck, because how do you buff a double neck? So that's the repair. It all went well apart from one thing. It seems like the wood wasn't sealed enough even after I shellacked it, CA glued it, shellacked it again, then put a dry coat of nitro over it, wet coat of nitro, then the color. That wood tannin seems to be seeping through and there's just a slight shadow. I gave the customer a discount because of it, because it's not up to my typical standard. The good news was that the customer originally said don't even color it white, so this is a big step up from what he thought he was getting anyway. So it's not perfect, but it sure looks way better than a broken headstock. So that was my first hypothesis for the bleed through, but it turned out to be probably wrong. What the consensus was after consulting with some sprayers was that it wasn't the tannins of the wood coming through to the surface, but it was more the surface colour layer moving, basically. What the Ultraflow did, because it has retarder thinnings in it, it displaced the pigment of the white, and over like 2 days it went from completely opaque to being just sees through or just visible. So it was an interesting and new problem that I witnessed for the first time in 20 years, but there you go.
Son of a bitch, give me a drink. One more night, but it's camping me. Son of a bitch, if I drink it clean, I'm gonna drink my life away. Now for 17 years I've been going them back. 17 more will bury me. And somebody please just tie me down. Oh, somebody give me a goddamn drink. Son of a bitch, give me a drink. One more night, it's camping me. Son of a bitch, if I can't get clean, I'm gonna drink my life away. Yeah, yeah. My heart is breaking, hands are shaking, bugs are crawling all over me. My heart is breaking, hands are shaking, bugs are crawling all over me.
So that's the repair. It all went well apart from one little thing, which probably won't be able to get picked up in that shot. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned something, and please like and subscribe and comment and all that kind of thing. Let me know what sort of videos you want to see. Cool guitar. It's basically a harp guitar. Now I'm thinking of these like harp guitars. If I find a cheap one of these, I'm gonna get it. So I'm basically treating this like a harp guitar, which has been pretty interesting. I didn't think I'd get into this type of instrument, but I can definitely see the benefits of playing one of these, especially if I could isolate effects for this, and I suppose I could do it with 2 amps and 2 inputs. That'd be pretty cool. Or built-in effects for one of them.